Welcome back. This is Season 8, Episode 2 already. We're already coming out of the gate with it. We just did Episode 1 this past Friday. We're recording this on a Monday, so we are on a roll. Lauren from Coffee and Lore, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I loved your Episode 1 of Season 8. I watched it. Ace is always great on your show because you guys have such good banter.
We do. We did a, not too long ago, kind of during the break, we did CanaCon here. We actually did a 30-minute panel. And we had nothing planned. I mean, we knew we were going to do it, and we kind of did a bullet list of like, okay, and from the convention, they said, all right, we want to talk about, like the author side of things, like writing. We want to talk about just some general, like what you guys are watching or reading or whatever. And then we took that and just spitballed it into 30 minutes, and we couldn't cuss. Wow. Yeah, it was a family event. Yeah, we made it 30 minutes without cussing at all.
That's amazing. No editing needed?
Yeah, no editing. Yeah, we were live. We were all over the loudspeakers at the con.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, so we were both just like,
that fart bucket.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we did a really great job, I think. So, anyway, another recurring guest on the show. It would not be a season of this without you. So, what are you reading right now?
Currently, I am reading a thriller by, I believe it's Lisa Jewell, called None of This Is True. And it is about a crime podcaster who is telling a story on her podcast, and she, I believe, is somehow involved in this crime.
Okay.
So that is my current read. Also getting ready to start Nora Roberts' Dragon Heart Legacy. It's a trilogy. So.
Dragons are having their day right now.
Dragons are. If you watched my video this morning, dragons are having an absolute moment.
Yeah.
There's so much material out there. It's easy to get overwhelmed. I just did a video this morning on the next 6 dragon-esque things that I am reading.
Gotcha. I know that there is a portion of my audience that doesn't love the book stuff. That's all we're talking about today. I'm going to go ahead and tell you at the beginning. This episode is going to be about fan fiction. This was actually your idea, and I thought it was such an interesting thing to talk about and a really forgotten kind of part of the culture, I think, to some people. So, if it's not your cup of tea, I will go ahead and put that at the beginning. But
you should totally stick around because there might be stuff that you have seen on TV or on Netflix that you didn't even know was fan fiction.
Yes.
So I'm going to open your eyes today a little bit.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few things on here that are like published works. Some of them have films, like feature films that have been released in theaters that originated as fan fiction. So very, very cool topic that we're going to talk about today. But yeah, I mean, to kind of circle back to it, I know that the dragon stuff, obviously like Fourth Wing took over Book Talk. And
it is
everywhere.
Everything. I mean, I really read it when it first came out and loved it. And I did not think it was going to gain this kind of popularity.
Right.
I loved it, but it is very niche.
Right. Maybe not, right?
Maybe not because people cannot get enough of it. But I was just, I'm not going to lie to you, I was floored. I was like, wait, I love something and the general population loves it too? Because a lot of times people will be like, oh, it's cheesy. Oh, it's, going to YA or whatever.
Right.
The author has gotten a lot of criticism of her names of the dragons and the pronunciation that she uses because she states that it is like a Scottish Gaelic, and
right.
She doesn't then enunciate it properly. So then you have Scottish Gaelic speakers who are like, if you're going to represent the language, you need to do the proper pronunciation. So that's like a whole thing, but honestly, I love the books for what they are, which is really fun. It's not pitched as YA because it is highly 18 plus in many parts.
Right.
But your main character is 20 years old. You've got your 20-year-old female main character. It's pretty common for fantasy, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, Vin is younger than that,
She is.
and Mistborn's not YA, so
Nope, nope, nope. So yeah, I absolutely love the whole Rebecca Yarros world right now.
and that's such a we could probably do a whole episode about how like slippery that slope is. It's such a very like thinly veiled line between what's YA and what's not, and
It really, really is because it used to be that YA was young adult, and so your main characters were all like between the ages of like 17 and 21.
right,
But now you've got 17 to 21-year-olds out there doing stuff that is absolutely not YA, so you can't classify it as YA. I read a book recently that is called Strange the Dreamer, and I had never heard of it. And I was like, I read a lot of fantasy. This book is excellent. Why have I never heard of it? Because it was pushed as YA.
yeah. It really
But
comes down to marketing, right?
At the end of the day, there was nothing YA about that book to me. So
it really, I think, comes down to like how the author, and probably more accurately the publisher, wants to push or market it, rather
Right.
than the actual contents of the book. 'Cause like, you take Aragon for instance.
yeah,
Paolini was 16 when he published that book. It is
which is crazy.
definitely YA. But like, if you go to like the third and fourth books in that, Brissinger or Inheritance, they're over here somewhere. Actually, they're actually right here. Those are not YA books. There's some very dark themes in those books that I would not, as a, you would not want like a tween kind of really
Reading it.
reading. That'd be like, oh shit.
I can't believe some of the Harry Potter stuff we read back in the day.
Yeah, well, I mean,
At the age that we did read it.
that is also probably a decent example. We kind of grew up with those, right? So when when the very first one came out, when Sorcerer's Stone came out, I definitely was a young child. But then, they released over time, and so by the time Deathly Hallows came out, most of us were adults or young adults, and that is a considerably darker book. Like, you would not think that it is necessarily like Sorcerer's Stone. So
Yeah, you wouldn't even believe it's the same author, the same world. Like,
yeah,
one of my favorite things about the movies, I made my husband and I recently do a within the last year, like a full watch through. He had never done one, like back to back. And I love the entrances, how they just so slightly change to that darker. It's the same
Yeah.
exact theme, but it's just a little darker.
Yeah.
And the visual is a little darker each time.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite little things that they did with the movies.
it was well done. Not looking forward to seeing what HBO is about to do.
I'm
to
nervous about it. I'm not gonna lie. I'm nervous about it. Will I watch it? Yes, because that is a huge part of my youth. You know what I mean? Midnight releases, like, that's a huge part of me. So I
Yeah.
want to see what they do with it. But I'm nervous about it.
I probably will not entertain it personally. Just because I feel like it is nearly impossible for them to cast it in the way that they did the original films, and it has that Rings of Power
Feel to
vibe
it.
to it, where it's like, we just want the money, and there's no like, and maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong, but I feel like with I mean, J.K. Rowling, I don't want to go
Yeah.
into it, but she's not going to stop running her mouth anytime soon.
No.
The controversy is going to be there, and I just feel
You
like
have to be able to separate the material from the author, unfortunately, if you're going to continue to be a Harry Potter fan. Like, I do
Yeah.
not blame anybody. I have a good
yeah.
friend who stands on the hill of she will not support financially this person.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also on that hill.
right,
I don't
and
give her
so-
any money at all. So if I watch it, it will be in.
Well, that's great that we're talking about this in this episode, though, because we're here to talk about a lot of different artists who put out material that is in that world.
Right.
Who, if you are having a Harry Potter itch and you want to give your money somewhere,
yeah.
there are tons and tons and tons of independent artists and writers who do put material in that world.
And when it comes to like merch and things too, like I've gotten stuff off of Etsy like that
Yeah.
she's not going to get any money from. Obviously like Yeah, this is a fandom that is this big is it's such a delicate thing because it's an important part of like so many people's lives and their histories and things. I have a story I love to tell about when Deathly Hallows came out. I couldn't get tickets to the premiere, so me and the two people that I went with, we actually got a 3 a.m. showing. Because this is back when the 7 p.m. was not a thing.
Yeah.
You had to wait till midnight. And so the midnight was all sold out instantly. We ended up going to a 3 a.m. showing of Deathly Hallows Part 2. So, I mean, literally the sun was coming up as we got out of the theater.
How cool, though.
And, yeah, I mean, that's just...
If you're going to watch it, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I don't miss... I miss the idea of the midnight premiere.
Yeah.
I don't know if... Like, when Oppenheimer came out, I think we got out of the movie at, like, 12:30. And it was just like, I don't know if I miss that part of it. Getting home.
It's hard for me to turn my mind off after a really good movie, too. Especially something like an Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I'd be up until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning running through a million different things in my head.
Well, and that's a great transition, too, right? So the item from the shelves today is very significant to Season 8. It is the Christopher Nolan 4K collection. It normally sits up there behind Superman Legacy, where Way of Kings is currently hiding because I don't know if it's in the frame, but yeah, Way of Kings lost its spot
to Sunlit
Man. I have I wanted all 3 of the secret projects here. There's actually 4, but the other one is not Cosmere, so it doesn't get to live here. It's with the other books. But yeah, so I added Sunlit Man, and I think I'm gonna keep these here for a little bit, maybe until the Words of Radiance leatherbound comes out, and then I can,
That's gonna be so awesome.
Really hype. It's next year. So it's a 2024.
I think for Christmas I'm ordering the 4-pack of the leather-bound special editions. I pulled it up again.
For these?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, they're incredible. Yeah, and also I encourage everybody to check out your review of Yumi. I plan to do a review of Sunlit Man. I'm waiting for you or Kay to read it. So
yes, I know it's on my TBR, but literally Wednesday's video is all about how out of control my TBR is getting.
I don't think you're gonna love it. I'll be honest. Like whenever I don't think you're gonna hate it because I don't think you've ever really hated any of Sanderson's work.
No.
But like I just whenever I read it, any of his stuff, I always in my mind I'm just like, oh, such and such will really love this, or such and such isn't gonna like this, or whatever. But I just feel like this one is such a Cosmere connected thing. It is such
Am I going to get every reference even though I've read all the material? I'm so bad with that because I read so much other stuff.
See, and that's the thing is I think there's going to be things where you're going to be like, oh, that's a thing, but then like I don't remember what it is. Yeah, which is fine. It is the most interestingly paced piece of fiction I've ever read because it has like a Mad Max kind of like you can loosely compare all of these to something, right? Like Princess Bride is obviously an inspiration for Tress.
What the Yumi? I have never read anything like Yumi.
Yumi to me is basically like a Studio Ghibli version of a
Yeah,
book.
Studio Ghibli. Okay.
Yeah, just in general, I think. Mm-hmm. But then this, I think the pacing at least is very much a Mad Max thing. They live on a planet where their cities are these like platforms that have like homes and things on them. Ooh. And they all like interlock together to form a city, and they're like it's like a flying city, and it can break apart into little tiny pieces. And the reason for this is the sun on their planet like instantly melts everything, like turns things to lava, like it destroys like mountain ranges and things.
Wow.
And they're on a small planet, and their day is 20 hours long. So every 20 hours, the whole planet gets completely destroyed and like rebuilt. And remade, yeah. And so like the people on their world are constantly running from the sun at all times. And to stop is to die. So like the pacing of the book, there is no downtime. There's no we're gonna go exposit for a second. There is none of that. It is a breakneck pace constantly.
Well, I'm excited to read it.
So yeah, I mean, I loved it. It was my favorite of the secret projects. So,
I think my favorite is Tress of the secret projects. I think
Yeah.
Yumi is Kay's.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, that would make sense. I think she's gonna really love Sunlit Man though. I don't want to give away any spoilers here, but there are so many moments in that book where I was just like losing my shit. It's very Stormlight heavy.
Nice.
So yeah,
If I order them all or not, I have to get this one. It's so beautiful.
I know. I have a loaner copy of Tress now. I got
awesome.
it for my mom to read because it's like the only one of his works that I really think she
would like.
really like. You know, a lot of it is probably too out there for her to like really kind of wrap her head around, but I think she'll really love that.
I told you that I gave my dad my copy of Way of Kings.
Oh, does he? Has he
I
read
mean,
it?
I didn't give it to him to let him. So I asked him when I saw him recently. I was like, "How are you coming on Way of Kings?" And he was like, "Oh, I had a sermon to write, and I got wound up, and I had to put it down, so I'm gonna have to start at the beginning." But he said he does enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's just he does so many things in a week, and also he's getting older that like he has to keep refreshing his memory on the characters and the things. So it's difficult for him, but he does enjoy it.
Way of
It's
Kings is
just-
hard. It's 600 pages of world building, you know.
But this is the man who, I mean, knew Tolkien back and front. That
Yeah.
introduced me to it. So we're not going to get on the
Yeah.
topic of our parents
Yeah.
aging here, but
We'll be here forever. Anyway,
Nolan.
the Nolan collection, the kind of main theme for season 8 is we're actually going to be going through. We're going to go through all of Nolan's works except for the Dark Knight trilogy. The reason we're excluding those is because Ace and myself just watched through all of them and reviewed them on Superhero Homie. So if you want to go check that out right now, you can.
it's a great episode.
Yeah, well, 3 episodes. We did.
Right.
We dedicated one to each. So really loved all of those. We did a deep dive into all of it. So we're going to be covering all the rest of his works. Most of them, like quite a few of them, aren't even in here. So we're going to be doing Dunkirk. We're going to be doing Insomnia. We're going to be doing Inception, Interstellar, The Prestige, Memento. We already did Oppenheimer, so we're not going to do that one again. But yeah, so I'm sure I've missed one. Did I mention Tenet?
No.
Yeah, so that's the one I'm missing. So I've watched Tenet twice, and I couldn't spoil it for you if I wanted to. So
That's me with Inception. I've seen it, and I tell people I've seen it, and then they're like, "What did you think of it?" And I'm like,
I don't know.
"I don't know. Tell me what I thought of it, please."
It's like I was entertained while things were happening. I can't tell you what they were. I actually really love Inception. I've probably seen that movie 20 times.
Oh wow.
Tenet, though, I think is too far. Like, I know Nolan really loves to get into the mind-bending stuff and like
yeah.
make the plot just like really intricate and like you have to like really hone in on it. But I felt like Inception was like just that perfect amount of like we're going to stress your brain out in the process of all of this.
Yep.
And then I feel like Tenet is like just a step over that line. Like,
So where you're like, now I can no longer comprehend.
yeah. Yeah, it's like I've seen this movie twice, and I cannot tell you shit that happens.
Shutter Island is not him, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I
Yeah.
thought it was. Probably because it's Leo.
Oh, yep. Yeah, I think, I want to say Inception's the only
Leonardo
thing they've
DiCaprio.
done together. But, yeah, I mean, it's an incredible collection. Interstellar and Prestige are two of my favorite movies of all time. I love Interstellar. As a matter of fact, I know we were talking about doing the Prestige, but like I kind of want to do Interstellar with you as well because that's such an emotional movie. Like I have cried almost every time I've ever watched that movie.
Wow.
Because what they do with that is
Is that the one that's got to do with space, kind of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like it is. So here's the cool thing about that. Before we move on, like Interstellar is like this really fucking complicated, like space travel movie. It's got like time dilation in it and things like that.
Nice.
Just like all this, like like Neil deGrasse Tyson probably had a heyday, like breaking it down.
Sure.
But like at the core of it, it's a movie about a dad and his daughter, and like it's just very touching in that way. And it was interesting to me to see him kind of like build this really complex like fucking space and physics movie around an idea that everybody could relate to, and I think that's why the movie works.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah. So
No, that's definitely high on ones of his that I want to see. I don't watch a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Like when you said you've seen that movie like 20 times, I cannot tell you. Maybe Lord of the Rings, like the trilogy.
yeah,
Or maybe Robin Hood, the Kevin Costner one.
yeah.
But there are not very many movies in my life that I've seen that many times.
I've seen Lord of the Rings easily that many times. I have
Star Wars episodes 1 through 3, possibly for me.
I've probably seen all 6 of the originals like probably 100 times.
Yeah, I watched them a lot when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So if we were talking lifetime watches, then yeah, I've watched those a lot.
I've seen The Martian about 100 times too. So I used to do this thing where like, for whatever reason, I would get stuck on like
A movie?
like I would get stuck on a movie because like a lot of times when I go to sleep, I have to unwind.
Yeah.
And putting on a movie that I've seen before, it's always got to be something I've seen before. So it's not like I'm going to fall asleep and wake up and get spoiled or like I have to focus too hard. But like a comfort movie that I've seen a bunch of times. Well,
Sure.
I'll get stuck on like one movie and I'll just watch that movie every night when I go to sleep for a while.
Oh, my daughter does that, but with professional wrestling.
Well, that tracks. I probably did a lot of that when I was her age
About
as well.
15, yeah.
But yeah, they're like, it was The Martian for a long time, so I have seen that movie so many times.
With Matt Damon in it? Is
Yeah,
that it?
I
Okay.
love that movie. Kay and I just recently watched. She had never seen it. We watched that on our anniversary. And,
I think I'm pretty
it's a great
sure I've
movie.
seen it.
and it has a great Lord of the Rings reference in it too. So.
Nice. I'm pretty sure I've seen it.
Yeah.
But it not like you've seen it.
Yeah, no, I've seen that movie so many times. Anyway, getting into the main event here, we are going to talk about fan fiction, and what inspired this episode really was that you recently wrote some Fourth Wing fan fiction that is getting a lot of traction. It's only been out 9 days, right?
Yeah, 9 days.
And it's called Maidens and Killers, and so I will admit, I wanted you to send me like 2 of your like favorite ones, and that was one of the ones that you sent me. And the other one, though, that you sent me was When Falls the Night, which is a Star Wars fan fiction.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to skim them. And so I started doing that with Maidens and Killers, and I was like, I don't know this universe, and this doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But the Star Wars one, I was like, I'm just going to skim it, and then I ended up reading it.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
So, yeah, I mean, I really, enjoyed it. We'll go kind of talk a little bit more about these in a minute. But what is it do you think, about fan fiction? So let's start out for maybe those that don't know, to you, what is, the concept of fan fiction?
So the concept of fan fiction really stems from this ability to be able to take a world that's already been created and extend it.
Right.
So, a lot of times world building is the hardest part of writing, correct?
Yeah.
Character development, that's really, really hard. But if you are able to take something that you already love, and the great thing about fan fiction is that it has a built-in audience, right?
Right.
So when you start from scratch with an original work, who is your audience? You've got to go out there and you've got to make that audience. They don't know anything about this.
Right.
But with fan fiction, you have a built-in audience. You just have to know how to reach them. And so that's why you have platforms like the 3 major ones are Archive of Our Own, Wattpad, which is what I post on just because it's very user-friendly to do.
Right.
I have thought about moving some of my stuff to AO, but I haven't. And then I forgot about fanfiction.net. I think that one's a little bit more dated.
It is. Yeah.
Wattpad and Archive of Their Own have apps that are really, really, really easy to use and things like that. So
yeah.
I feel like I get a lot of reads on Wattpad. So why change a good thing by switching different?
I went and looked at all of them, and yeah, fanfiction.net looks like it's from 2006.
That is where I originally started posting.
Yeah.
Back in probably 2001.
Yeah.
I only have 2 published works right now because every now and then I will unpublish everything and give it a good read through and edit it, etc. I have a finished Star Wars that I am in an editing process with. And then I have like 4 other things that are like, I don't love them.
Yeah.
So,
Trust me, I know all about that process. Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, like, looking at like the expansion of things, like one of the things actually that comes to my mind is the expanded universe for Star Wars, right?
right.
When we didn't get anything after Episode 6, after Return of the Jedi, we had this long, like 30-year time period where the fandom is obsessed with Star Wars, but there is none to be had. And
Yes,
so you
sir.
have all of these like incredible writers that came out and just kind of populated that universe with all these things. And then we had the prequels come out, and like the prequels kind of like retconned a lot of things from those books, not intentionally, but it's just like they have like a ranking of canon that they did at the time where it's like the movies supersede everything,
Right.
and then anything like that Lucasfilm has put out, like any like the Ewok movies or whatever, or any of that stuff, that's all like the second level of canon, and then you have the books, and then so if the books contradict the movies, obviously the movies is what really
What
happened.
is the thing?
Is canon.
Right.
Whereas when Disney took over, there was this whole thing where they just kind of like obliterated all of that, right?
Right.
But then over time, like over the years, they've gone and like really reintroduced a lot of things that were expanded universe that to make them into the main canon now. Like Thrawn, for instance,
Yeah.
was the Thrawn trilogy was a thing that came out during that expanded universe, and it was like you said, they had this preconceived fandom where you don't have to really go out and try to gather an audience.
Right.
There's people chomping at the bit for more Star Wars.
There are a lot, almost 3,000 people who love Fourth Wing, love the world, but the main female MC is not their favorite person in the world. I am one of them.
Yeah.
I think she's incredibly whiny, and she makes really, really terrible decisions sometimes. And so I wanted to write a stronger female character. And so that's what I did. And I have so many comments. Like at this point, it's getting to a point where I can't reply to all of them.
Yeah.
Just people are like, wow, I really like this female character more than the female character. And I'm like, that's kind of why I wrote it.
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool. Like I looked on there and saw like how many like upvotes and comments and things that you had on it. And I think it's really awesome that, number one, that this fandom is willing to look into fan fiction, because I think certain fandoms are going to be more like open to it than others.
Absolutely.
Just in general, we talked about Harry Potter earlier. Obviously, like fan fiction is a huge part of that.
Huge part of the Harry Potter culture. Really picked up in the last 5 years, but has always been a big part of that culture.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think it picking up in the last 5 years is probably pretty obvious. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but it's incredible to me that so many people are willing to sit down and write it, and that so many people are willing to sit down and consume it.
So many talented people. They're honest to God, really good writers writing fan fiction.
Yeah.
It's just some beautiful pieces of work. And then there's stuff that gets made, gets picked up, and maybe little things are tweaked or turned, and then they are published as original works or shows or whatever. That has really become popular. It's one of the best ways to get a publisher right now.
Right.
Because it is very hard to do
it's
on your own if
yeah.
you have no influence behind you and you don't have like the social media following.
Yeah.
To get like published by a decent publisher that is going to be able to put the money into your book and push it the way that it needs to be pushed, because if not, it's just going to be out there in print and just sitting there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so publishers are even looking into this, like, oh my gosh, this, fan fiction has 500,000 reads on Archive of Our Own, which is a website that not that many people know about, so what can we do with it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think that it's a very awesome like avenue for somebody to get noticed for just their skill in writing. You know, like, oh, I
Right.
can draw an audience. Um, we talked about some of the like popular versions of or popular fan fictions out there, and doing some research on this, they kind of like run the gamut, right? Like, there's some out there that are like liked because of how bad they
Yeah,
are.
they're popular for the wrong reasons. They're like,
Yeah,
this is the cheesiest thing I've ever read, like,
yeah,
ever.
yeah. One of the ones I put down here, apparently there's I very lightly skimmed some of this. There's one called My Immortal. It's a gothic like Harry Potter fanfic, and it is like renowned for just being god awful
And
terrible.
see, I have not read that one.
Yeah.
I've read some Harry Potter fanfic, but I haven't read that one, so I wasn't able to back you up on how bad it is.
But there are people that on there that genuinely really love it,
I'm sure.
that just acknowledge it like, oh, it's terrible, but I really like it.
Yeah, like it's so bad, it's good type of thing. It gives me the cozy feeling I'm looking for when I'm reading it.
Yeah. And you had mentioned Manacled, right? Which I
Manacled
somehow didn't run
is-
across. But
Gosh, Manacled is probably the most popular Harry Potter fanfiction right now. Specifically, Hermione, which is Draco and Hermione, and it takes place. Harry Potter is dead, so it takes place from the end of Deathly Hallows. Harry Potter is dead, and
so he dies in the fight and
yes,
doesn't come back.
yes, and Draco becomes the grand. Like Voldemort takes power, and Draco becomes a Grand Reeve, and it's very dark. Hermione is auctioned off as basically like a breeder for the Reeves. And sorry, I don't know if we can even talk about
We
this
can.
on here.
We can.
Okay.
Just warning that we're
yeah,
gonna
warnings on this one. I'm
we're
not
gonna
gonna
talk
go.
about some dark shit here.
So she's auctioned off, but she has a mission from the Order, and so Draco kind of has a huge play in the way that things go from there. But it has on Goodreads a 4.7 with like I think almost 50,000 reviews on Goodreads.
Yeah, that's incredible.
The hundreds of thousands of reads on actual archive of their own. Like, it is probably the most well-known fan fiction out there right now.
There are books on these shelves that don't have that good of a review on Goodreads.
Yeah.
So
it's impressive what gosh darn it, her name.
yeah, we had it.
Yu Lee, I think it is.
Yeah, we had it just a second ago.
We did. I believe it's like
Sinlin Yu.
Senlin Yu. I wanted to make sure I said it right. On Archive of Their Own, it's called Manacled, and it is the most popular fan fiction that I have come across. But if you watch, let's see, there's the Netflix series. After, it is like a little 3-movie Netflix thing. I don't know. It's a standalone kind of thing. It is 100% based off of a Harry Styles fan fiction that was written by Anna Todd on, I believe it was on Wattpad. And it got so many views that a publishing company reached out to her and they were like, hey, can we turn this into something original? And they did. And I mean, they kept some things like the guy's British, the guy has tattoos. They kept some things, but 100% it is its own original thing on Netflix. And then one of my favorites is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood writes these really great STEM novels. And the first book, The Love Hypothesis, was started out as Rilo fan fiction. So, Kylo Ren and Rey. Sorry, I wanted to call her name Ren, but then I was like, it can't be.
It cannot be.
It can't be Kylo Ren and Ren. So that's what it started out as like this sub-universe where they were physics professors. And even the cover, if you look at the cover of The Love Hypothesis, it looks like Kylo Ren and Rey. It's so funny. But now she has like a multi-book deal. She's one of the most popular STEM fiction writers out there.
That's crazy.
And it started with a Kylo Ren fan fiction.
I looked it up because this seems like it was an easy one. To Sleep in a Sea of Stars is over there. It's Paolini's science fiction book. And it only has 8,900 reviews on Goodreads, and it has a 3.79. So
Yeah, so way better reviews for Manacled
Yeah.
than that. Way more and way better.
yeah. Sorry, Paolini. The book's not good. I don't know what to tell you. Stick to the fantasy, please. I will be reading Murtaugh soon, though.
I actually am starting Aragon soon so that I can eventually get there. I want to get there. I think I've read it. I have it on Audible.
Okay.
I think I've read it before, and I'm hoping about a quarter of the way I'll be like, oh, okay, this is a refresh.
Awesome.
Because I'm pretty sure I've read it in high school.
Because I have the other 3 if you want to borrow them. So.
Okay, I may look into
they're
that.
Literally right here.
I may definitely look into that. 50 Shades of Grey, I did not know this one.
I didn't know this either. It was originally a Twilight
fan. It makes so much sense, but I didn't know it.
No, like that. Yeah, it does make a lot of sense because I can't stand either thing. So I was
the
like,
50 Shades of Grey books.
I hear the book is a lot better than the
is
movie.
Much better than the movies.
Yeah,
I did not
that.
love the movies at all. I have watched them, of course, but the books are top tier. Not my favorite thing, but as far as dark romance, it's about as good of writing as you're going to get for that kind of subgenre of dark romance.
Have you seen, Rest in Peace, but there's actually like a Gilbert Gottfried where he reads through.
I have seen it. It's so cringy.
It's awful.
It's so cringy.
It's like awful in the best way, you know?
Yeah.
Speaking of, when you sent me down this fan fiction rabbit hole, I came across this Minecraft YouTuber thing. I regret. I
don't know what that is, and my
regret.
daughter plays Minecraft quite a bit.
There's a subset, and I wish I didn't know any of this. There's a subset of fan fiction. So they have Minecraft fan fiction, obviously, duh. But there's like fanfic of famous Minecraft YouTubers role playing together. Ooh, it was the darkest of times.
My daughter has watched like these YouTubers that RP Minecraft together on videos.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but it's like fan fiction of that.
Oh wow, fan fiction of that.
Yeah, it's fan fiction of that.
Oh
yeah.
no!
Yeah.
That's the dark web, sir.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like this ought to be on the dark web. Like, I don't want to know that this exists.
Yeah, because my daughter does watch some of those RP Minecraft videos.
And that's problematic to me to an extent because they're real people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These aren't fictional characters. These are like real people that you're writing these stories about. To me, there's a different tone to that.
I don't love real people fan fiction. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like athletes and politicians or celebrities. I'm just not. That's not my whole thing. I prefer fictional fan fiction, but I'm never gonna ever yuck somebody's yum if
sure.
Reading about Chris Pine in that way gets you to sleep at night. Then that's for you.
Right. I mean,
there's a genre and a niche, and other people like you, but it's just never been my thing.
Yeah. There's got to be some Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce
there is
fanfic
on Wattpad, and the ones I have come across are awful.
I bet they are.
Oh, it's really bad.
Another one that I came across was A Study in Emerald, which is Neil Gaiman. I mean,
he's a huge writer.
I really love his work, and the fact that like this was a Lovecraft Sherlock kind of crossover. I'm like, I want to read that.
I have not read this particular Neil Gaiman either.
Yeah.
So very interested in it. That's not the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah.
But recently the first time I've heard of it.
One of the ones that I added on here too that's like super obvious was Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, which
I did read.
Feature film also.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. If you took it for what it was, which was, very comical. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you
it's zombie fanfic.
Yeah, you couldn't take it too seriously. It was a great read for like in October. Yeah. If you were looking for something with like a zombie or spooky vibe, I try to occasionally throw some of those in there.
I feel like we had the zombie craze for a while.
I think we're past it though.
We are past it. I think we're in the dragon craze now. Do you think House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones are like largely responsible for that?
I don't know about Game of Thrones. There was not, in my opinion, as somebody who watched Game of Thrones from start to finish, I would say more so George R. R. Martin's work than I would the Game of Thrones show.
Yeah.
Because there was not enough of the dragons in the Game of Thrones. They cut so much.
So many of the dragons were cut. Yeah.
Exactly. So many of the dragons, so much history, so much lore, like, which we haven't even gotten all from Martin because of his own personal reasons.
It came out today that he basically has written not a single word this year on Winds of Winter. It's not coming out.
Cannot. Ooh, so why'd you tell me that on air? Woo!
Yeah, I'm
on
sorry.
air.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I've years ago I like
gave up on it.
Yeah, because I have read the first 5 books, and when the show came out and the ending was awful, I immediately said, we're never getting these books because regardless of...
I don't think they should have ever gone past the books in the show.
And that's kind of the reason, like, HBO... I understand why, from a business perspective, they couldn't risk their biggest, like, cash cow on will he finish the story.
But
so
you gave him an out, and he is going to take that.
Yeah, well, he gave them the ending. And the ending we got in the show, regardless of, like, what he or his, kind of like fandom want to say now. The ending we got in the show is his ending. And Martin's like, well, I would have... they would have had to do like 3 more seasons to get to where I wanted to. And I'm like, okay, but this ending was never going to be satisfying.
No.
I don't care if you spent another 7 seasons getting there.
Exactly.
This ending is not going to be satisfying. And I think he has the option of to pivot to something new. And I think he's been stuck. Like, this has been his ending in his head for 30 years. And I don't think he's willing to change it. But I also think he knows that the general public hates it, so I think he's just not gonna. I think he's just not gonna finish it.
That's very, very possible, and it's frustrating because I do like the books.
Yeah,
I think that the books read so much better than the show. I love House of Dragons. I love the first few seasons of Game of Thrones. I would say, I don't know where it lost me. There's 7 seasons of it.
Yeah, I think the first 5 are quite tremendous.
I was just gonna say, season 5 ending was good, but by 6, I think I was checked out.
Yeah, well, there's 8 actually. There's 8 seasons.
So by 6 or 7, I was definitely checked out.
Yeah, and then 8 is just god awful the whole time, basically.
And it really sucked because I love Jon Snow's character in the books a lot, and I love Daenerys' character in the books a lot. I read a lot of Game of Thrones fan fiction, believe it or not. There's some way fucking better endings on Wattpad.
Yeah. I mean, anybody could scribble down something better, I think, than that.
And that's another great example of where fan fiction meets a need.
Right.
There are people who are like, I cannot do with that ending. They ruined my favorite characters. So you go and you find, either you write it yourself, or you go and find somebody who has successfully written a better ending.
And that's like a really important part of it, right? Is, maybe the original creator of this thing that you fall in love with makes choices that you just don't like. You're just like, I just can't deal with it. And Star Wars is a great example of that. With there's so many people that are just like feel like the characters that they have grown up loving were ruined by the sequels.
Yeah.
And well, you have fan fiction for that.
I really have been so happy with the content from Ahsoka that we did get towards my favorite character.
Yeah.
Because there's such a chunk of time that's missing. That's one of my most popular fan fictions deals in this Clone Wars post chunk of time.
And that's the one you sent me, right?
Yeah,
that's,
When Falls the Night.
And I loved what I read of it.
Well, thank you, dear. I always get nervous whenever people I know read my stuff.
Yeah.
I think anybody does. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times you're putting like your fantasies into it, your thoughts into it, and you're like, how's this person going to react to what I've said? You know what I mean?
Well, it's always like, it's one of those things where it's an interesting read for me because like I really love these characters,
Yeah.
and there's so many different like facets to Anakin. Like a lot of people say like that the Clone Wars Anakin and the Anakin from Episode 3 like that they can't be
Same Anakin.
the same Anakin, but I'm like, but they are. Like you have to understand the headspace that he's placed
Right.
in this movie, because at the beginning when it's just him and Obi-Wan and they're like flying around or whatever and cracking jokes and shit, that's 100% the Clone Wars Anakin.
Yeah.
It's not until like all the really dark shit starts to happen, like he starts to have the dreams about Padme like dying, and which Palpatine's probably planting.
Exactly.
The whole deal with him having to kill Dooku and all that stuff. Like all of that is weighing on him and putting
His
him in
mother,
this situation.
that whole situation is enough to make anybody absolutely go off the fucking deep end if they
Yeah.
are not given some fucking help. I don't know if the Jedi have therapists, but I tell you what, a lot of Star Wars would be better if the Jedi had therapists.
Yeah, I mean, to quote, the Joker in, very famous Batman story, all it takes is one bad day.
Yeah.
And Anakin's, there was a lot of fucking bad days.
There was, and it will make any person snap. But I'm an Anakin defender till I die.
I know.
So,
I know. To a fault, yeah.
To a fault, I am an Anakin defender, guys.
Yeah. Check out our Ahsoka review where we talk at length about how many, really terrible fucking things Anakin Skywalker did. But
it was very much, what was it, 3 versus 1?
yeah, it really was. But I loved that Ahsoka as a show really like honed back in on how she saw him, and like the from her point of view that he was this very like maybe not the most nourishing master ever, but like they had a very important bond for the two of them, and he really cared about her.
Yeah, he cared as much as he could at that point in his life care about somebody.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I mean, that being said, is there anything else you want to talk about in terms of fan fiction?
Just the biggest thing is you got to take it with an open mind. I think that it, for whatever reason, has this bad connotation of, oh, it's not original.
Right.
It's, you're stealing somebody else's work. Most authors love fan fiction. As long as you give the proper credit, like, most authors love it because it's basically like free advertisement for them. There are people who just scroll Wattpad. Wattpad puts out like a top 10 or a top 20 in every genre, and they just scroll and they're like, oh, this is the most popular in the science fiction. Oh, this is the most popular in romance right now, and they'll just read those. Now, of course, there's the people that go and search for exactly what hashtag they're looking for.
Right.
And then there are people who follow specific authors, where it's like they read everything that specific author writes. So you've got kind of 3 ways of reaching people, and I just think that it's not given the credit that it's due sometimes.
Well, it's just like covering a song, right? I mean, you're doing your own spin on an original work, and some people aren't going to love that, and some people are really going to be into it. So,
but it's always going to bring attention to the original.
Right? Yeah.
As soon as somebody finds out it's a cover, they're going to be like, let me go listen to what it's supposed to sound like.
Right. Yeah.
So, let's say somebody follows me on Wattpad, and they read my Star Wars stuff. They come across my Fourth Wing stuff. They start to read it, like you, have no idea what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And they're like, let me go ahead and read Fourth Wing first. Now, I've just given Rebecca Yarros another sale, even though I don't need to.
Right.
Literally, people can't get their hands on these books. But I digress. It's another person reading that material.
I have to circle back and read those a little bit. I always have such a hard time. Several people have been like, we want you to put out like a smutty kind of version of the book that I'm writing. And I'm just like, I always am so.
It's difficult.
It is difficult, and I always like. For me, like the major thing for me is like, I hate reading smut from like a like typical male perspective.
Yeah.
I don't think I have that kind of perspective, but it is a worry, right? Like I would be so hard on myself, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I've avoided it, you know.
No, absolutely. I've definitely read some really crappy smut that had male writers, but I think if it's done well, it is like it's really done well. You know, it puts you there, but it is difficult to do well because, my goodness, you run into so many issues, and a lot of things I worry about too with my smut writing is consent issues. I want to make sure I'm always putting a warning at the top of any chapter that contains smut that this smut is in this chapter. So if you want to skip this chapter, go ahead to the next chapter.
And I did see that as I was like
right,
through
and
there, so.
that's just something that's super important to me because I never want somebody who is asexual or does not like that type of thing to be scrolling through my work and be like, oh, I thought I was in the clear. Apparently I'm not. Now we're talking about members.
Yeah, right. It's weird though. Like three of the people I know that are very ace are they all like all three of them really like smut, and I'm just like, okay, well.
I completely understand that. I have good friends who are also ace.
Yeah.
And that is where they get that need fulfilled.
Yeah.
They could separate themselves from it. They don't have to physically encounter it.
Right.
But that need, that if they have that need at all, it is fulfilled through written work or even video work. Whatever fulfills your need. That's where I'm at with it.
We're getting into a different episode now. But yeah, you know, overall, I am really excited that you decided to bring this up because this has been an awesome episode, and I wouldn't have come up with the idea to do this on my own. So,
well, thanks so much. Yeah. I appreciate you coming on here and giving me a platform to talk about it because I have my own platform, but a lot of times I run into issues where I think I was trying to explain to you earlier. It kind of feels like self-promotion sometimes where I'm like, oh, wow, I have 10,000 over here. Let me tell them about this thing over here. And I don't ever want to come across as that. I don't ever want somebody to feel like just because you like my fan fiction and read it, you have to like my YouTube channel.
So Ace was sitting right in that chair, and gave you a very clear message, which was don't ever be afraid to self-promote. And I agree with him. I think that I don't think there's any pressure in you doing that. In saying, you know, if you want to hear more from me, like here's my YouTube channel. I think that I think you should. I don't think there's any pressure there.
And I got to get better at that. I do. I think that just comes with the confidence in a new medium. YouTube, I've been doing for 3 years now, which is crazy. But I started doing it during the pandemic. I had 2 book clubs that I used to go to that were like in-person book clubs that got completely canceled. I don't even know where half those people are anymore. And it fulfilled something I really needed it to at the time. So I've been doing YouTube for 3 years now. And that's new for me. I've been writing fan fiction for 20 years.
Right.
So,
I drop our link tree everywhere. So, like this video will have it in the link.
Well, I'm going to be posting this one. I'm going to save it on my hard drive at my laptop, and I'm going to put it over on my my YouTube and see what it does as well. This is not the format I normally post in. I'm usually a really quick video, a 15 to 20 minute, just gives you the facts, the wham bam, whether we're talking about books, like specific books or a genre. I'm out 3 times a week though.
Yeah.
So like it's a constant rotation. So this is going to be a different format, but I'm excited to see what people think.
And you know, yeah, ours is a lot more weekly. I mean, hell, me and Ace, when we did the premiere last week, I cut a fourth of the outline. And we still went over 2 hours because we were going to talk about the strikes. And we'll probably do that at some point in the future if people aren't just exhausted of hearing about it by now.
Yeah, well, fan fiction did well during those.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you know, people turn to other content avenues. So
a lot of cancellations have caused fan fiction to thrive. All kinds of things.
Speaking of, you know, your channel, before we head out, you want to let us know what you got coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. I this week I am talking about my overwhelming TBR, and just what I am doing to try to get back a hold of something, because TikTok and other sources are just feeding this thing, and I'm literally drowning in my TBR. I keep purchasing books, I keep downloading books, I keep putting them on hold at the library, and faster than I can read them. And I read
You read very
20
very
books a
fast.
month
Yeah.
ish. So I've got some ideas I'm trying to work through to get this TBR done, because I want to get to things like The Sunlit Man, and it's just difficult when you're constantly being fed. It's a FOMO really
Yeah.
badly.
Yeah.
I have horrible book FOMO.
Yeah, like it's hitting me right now because like I need to read Cytonic, which is the next Skyward book.
Sure.
Um, and tomorrow actually the last one comes out, which is Defiant. Um, and that's Sanderson's, once again YA series.
Yeah.
I will say that it compared to his other works, it probably is YA.
YA, yeah.
But I still really enjoy it. I mean, it's not dumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whereas. I also really want to read Murtaugh, right?
Yeah. Are you
and
completely caught up on that series? Like,
yeah,
can you pick up Murdoch and...
yeah, I can pick up Murtaugh and read it. Like
Okay.
the last time I read Inheritance was probably 5 years ago, but like that whole
How
series,
many books is in that whole series?
It's 4.
4? That's
Yeah,
not
it's only
bad.
4.
Okay, I don't know why I was thinking it was so much more intimidating than that.
Yeah, it's only 4. Well, I will say this: the second book, Eldest, the first like half of it is really really hard for me to get through because it's like he wrote Aragon when he was like we said 16, and it's very much written as like I'm going to write this thing. Obviously, it's in a larger universe, but you can tell that he really didn't do all the world building in the first book.
So he tries to throw a lot in the second.
Not tries like it's like the first book is very much this is a fantasy story, and this is happening, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and then we all win the day at the end and have this good hoorah moment, and then in book 2 it's like, all right, now we're going to go back and world build for a long time, and we're going to talk about the dwarves and what they eat and who they worship, and like it's kind of this whole like really intricate thing. It is easily my least favorite book in that series. I'm not saying I don't like it, but the first half of it was hard for me to get through the first time. And I think I've reread that series once. I remember the night that Skyrim came out, another back, kind of midnight release thing. Back when we used to have to do that, I was trying to finish Inheritance before the game came out because I knew that the game was going to pull me away from it. And this was a series I'd been reading for 10 years, And I'm sitting outside in November in the cold outside of GameStop with like 100 pages to go, feeling like my eyes were going to start bleeding wow. Just reading it. So, I remember that book very well. So yeah, I can pick right up, and
nice.
I want to because of how in the zeitgeist it is right now. But I also want to read Defiant before it gets spoiled because Dragonsteel is going on right now, actually. So
yeah, that is a big thing that I suffer with. It's like I'm constantly having people tell me this is the best thing I've ever read. This is incredible, and being like, well, I don't want to miss out on that. Well, I want to read that. Well, I really want to read that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It stinks. I picked up the new Travis Baldree.
Yes, I had somebody, was it you that showed me the second one?
Yeah.
And I was like, now I got to read that too.
Yeah, it's on my shelf, but unfortunately it's lower on my TBR.
Yeah, I guess you're going to have to get that one signed.
Oh, that would be so dope. I gotta go. I gotta go to Dragon Con.
You do.
There's a couple of things or a couple of people that would insta-get me there. And so far I have not seen those things, so I'm like trying not to pull the trigger. But
is Rebecca Yarros one of them?
Rebecca Yarros is one of them. She's going to be at a Polycon in April. But I'm not going to go to that by myself because it is like Dragon Con level of people. And I have almost everybody I know has something else going on in that time frame.
Yeah.
So there's that. Hayden Christensen, Diego Luna, Pedro Pascal. Any of those 4 people would get me there.
I wonder. I wonder if they'll ever get Pedro there because he's so busy, but he's like in all the fandoms, you know.
Yeah, you just told me your video with Ace told me he got cast in the new Fantastic Four. Yes.
Yes, he is gonna be Reed Richards in Fantastic
I don't
Four.
know much about Reed Richards.
He's the main character, so.
Oh, okay.
Well, all four of them are the main character, but he's the main character. So.
This is gonna be a time jump then, because the last Fantastic Four that I saw, they were pretty young.
Well, that's all the Fox universe, and so this will be a completely fresh
Thing.
take on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So this will actually be MCU canon. All the old Fox stuff. Good God, it was atrocious.
Not good.
No,
So-
especially the 2015 one is absolutely.
Which
atrocious.
one had Jessica Alba in it?
That's the first two. Those are from like the early 2000s.
Okay, I've
Then
seen
there's
those
a 2015 one that's fucking terrible. It's got Michael B. Jordan in it. It's probably the worst thing that has Michael B. Jordan in it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's
super
no fun.
bad. It's really fucking awful. Like Miles Teller is in that, and it's
I love Miles
Me
Teller.
too. Yeah. Yeah. All right. But yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be a big thing. I hope that Marvel is casting him for the right reasons and not just because of his following. Because
I agree.
like the old adage goes, like, you know, when the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like Disney has a bunch of money, right? And
yeah.
so it's just like, oh well, we need to pick the MCU up. Let's throw some more money at it. And I don't think, like, obviously he is one of the few, I think, true movie stars of today where just he himself will draw in an audience. You know.
Speaking of MCU, are you gonna watch Loki?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. Everybody's been telling me that it's really good. So
I need to watch it. I haven't watched it.
yeah, I haven't either. But it's only 6 episodes, and everybody has been telling me it's tremendous. I've been kind of off the hype train for a bit. I didn't watch Secret Invasion at all. I
have
probably
not.
never will.
Yeah.
But everybody's been telling me like Loki season 2 really good. So.
Well, Loki season 1 was pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was a little weird, mind bendy, and it took me a minute to figure out what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
But I liked it, so I might have to rewatch the last episode of season 1 before I start season 2 to know what the heck is going on.
Yeah. Apparently, it kind of recontextualizes a few things. So.
Oh wow! Well, then maybe I don't need to.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you know.
Yes.
I might start it tonight actually. So.
Well, there you go.
That being said, we will turn this into a MCU episode real quick if we keep going. Check out Coffee and Lore on YouTube.
Please do.
And for now, this has been Entertainment Evolved.